Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Miller. Every week, I chat with fascinating people from all walks of life in order to bring you knowledge, inspiration, and insight. If you enjoy the show, you can support it by subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with a friend. This is the Jeremy Miller Podcast. And it's Dades, right?
It was Papadadis somewhere along the line.
Papadadis?
Along the line, it was before my time. I might change it back.
Papadadis, do you know where it
from what I was told, it was either my grandfather or great grandfather joined the Marines or something, and on the name tag, just they made it Dades, and then it just stuck from there and never. Yeah,
that's funny.
Kind of mad. I would have liked Papadadis.
Papadadis, that's cool. Is that like a
Greek?
Greek. Okay.
Oh,
that's
half Greek, half Italian.
Frankie the Greek.
Frankie the Greek. Yes,
that's dope. I love it. Okay. We'll stick with Dades for today.
Yeah.
All right. Frankie Dades, welcome to the podcast, dude. I'm super excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Heck yeah, dude. So I feel like we've been following each other for a while on Instagram, but we've never really connected, or I feel like I've never really gotten a chance to get to know you.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to dive into all that and learn about you and your story and more about Frankie today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man.
Dude, so I know I've seen you post a lot about you were a construction worker at one point, right?
Yes.
And that was it seemed like a pretty significant part of your life up to this point. I just kind of want to know that whole journey of what led you to construction and how you went from that to what you're doing now, because I feel like they're not even closely related.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I want to just know that whole story.
Yeah, that it was completely unplanned. So construction was never in the books for me. I never even thought of doing that. I was not a handy person growing up, and I went to college and I was trying to figure out what path I wanted to take, and I always was geared towards becoming a first responder. That was my passion. I always wanted to serve people, help people, but with any of those jobs, city jobs, government jobs, they take time to get hired. It's hot. You got to wait for a test or them to get to your list number once you take the test, etc. So it takes a couple of years. So I knew graduating college, that was what I wanted to do. And I was like, well, what am I going to do in the meantime? I had a job at GNC at the time, and I'm like, I can't do this. I need an actual income.
What was your degree you got in college?
Criminology and psychology.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I love that stuff.
So it was to be a cop later down the road, or a police officer?
Yeah, that was options. I was looking at all different aspects of just a first responder, and I was taking numerous tests and everything, and seeing what path I wanted to take. So in the meantime, I was like, what do I had I would say a couple months left of college and trying to figure out what was after. And I knew somebody who had a connection for me to get into the union. So I knew nothing. I didn't even know what I was going to be doing. And they were like, all right, you're going to show up in Manhattan it was the day after I graduated. I got to show up to a job site and bring this, and this tools I've never used before. So the trade that I was going into the cement masons union. So what the cement masons do is you ever see they could do anything from sidewalks and driveways, who pour those and make them look pretty, or you do residential, commercial, high rises and buildings, the floors. So we put the floors in each level that the building's going up. I had no idea of that. No idea how to do it either.
That's wild.
So I graduate college. Everybody's going out and partying the night of to celebrate, and I'm going to bed early because I had to be up the next day. And I showed up on the first day, and the reason I say it was so significant is because you get thrown in with the wolves and you learn real quick it's either you work or you're going home. And I learned so much. It turned me from a boy to a man real quick, because the construction workers, they don't get enough credit. They are some of the toughest, hardest workers I've ever seen. They don't complain no matter what the weather is. It's hot, it's cold. They're working all day, all hours, physical labor, nonstop. And it's not, and you can't hide. there's always a foreman who's like the boss, and he's always standing there and watching. Like, and if you slack off, it's not like a secure job in the sense where like you like could mess up and just get by. Like, they hand you your check and they say, all right, go home. Like, don't come back tomorrow. So it was like me coming out of college. I'm just a stupid young kid, 21 years old. Like, I never had it. I worked at GNC. Like, I never had a job like this before. And like, that was just me, like, especially a trade that I didn't know. So they treated me like a laborer. I was doing all like the grunt work for them, carrying buckets of concrete and just all. Yeah, I was like, I was working my ass off, and they were working me hard. And you had to kind of earn your way. Otherwise, they would send you home. But I will say they saw my work ethic, and that I learned if you're not early, you're late. So there was no, you start at 7 a.m., you're getting there 6:30, or they're handing you a check, you're going home. If they need you to stay late that day, you're staying late. Like, there's no, I got something to do after this. Otherwise, they're like, oh, all right, there's 20 other guys waiting who would love this work, like, and they'll stay late every single day. So you know what I mean? It's competitive like that. So I did what I had to do. I took the grunt work. I did anything they asked, and after that, I made connections with, like, because it's a very much type of who networking like union, where it's like I worked with this guy once. He liked the way I work. I could call him if I'm looking for work, and he'll be like, oh, this kid's good, bring him on. So like, I made connections with some good guys, learned a lot from them. I always asked questions. I was always open to critique, which is very important. Like, learned a trade that I never even knew, had nothing to do, and I learned it decently.
Right.
And I, from there, had good connections and like was able to keep myself working for my period of time.
How long did you do it for?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Holy shit. What did like a day in the life look like going to do that? Dude, 4 years of that sounds grueling.
My body was beat. I'm still like my show, because like each trade has and anyone who works construction or any type of like physical labor job, they know each trade has their injury. So like cement masons, it's like a lot of smoothing out concrete. So my shoulders, my rotator cuffs are getting run down, and you'll be on your knees a lot. So your knees, like, so you feel that, like, I've started to feel it. You're walking, and then like when you're pouring concrete, you're walking on rebar. You know what rebar is? Right. So you're walking on rebar. So like your hips are getting messed up, and like it's like quicksand as the concrete starts to dry. Yeah. So it takes a toll on your body. But a day would be, usually I'd have to be like the hours would normally be 7 to 3. I was working all over the city, so I'd have to plan the night before if I'm taking public transportation, or if I'm driving in, I'd have to scope out the area I'm going if I'm going to drive in. So I have to find parking, because there's no parking in New York City anywhere.
Did you grow up in New York City?
I did.
Okay, we'll get into that later. I want to know about that too.
Yeah. So it was wake up usually 4:30 in the morning. If I can have time to eat quick, like leave the house, get to the job site like half hour early. They'll let me know what my job is that day, what we're doing. And then basically like you get right to it. 7 o'clock starts, you're there, you're starting working till we'd have coffee break at like 9 o'clock, 15 minutes, right back to work, lunch at like 11 or 12. I don't remember what it was. And you're done unless there's another job to do, but generally you're done at 3 or 3:30, and I'd hop on the bus, drive home, and I'd go straight from there to the gym. I would do this. I think about it now, and I'm like, oh my God, I was doing that. But yeah, I was working out, go home, eat, right to sleep, and then all over 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days if they work Saturday. Yeah, it was definitely tough. Like I learned work ethic from there a lot, and it showed, because like I said, in 4 years, I wasn't laid off because of just like the only time I got like laid off was when the job ended, which is normal. That happens. Or if it's like winter, in the deep part of winter, like work slows down. But I was never laid off because of my performance. And like the person who would help me find work was telling me, I have guys who've been in this union for 30 years that I'm not calling, and I'm calling you because you show you care. And like, that means a lot. Like that he's not calling guys at home because they're laid off looking for work. They've been in the union for 30 years. Me, I'm in 2-3 years at the time, and he's calling me over them because I showed that I could work hard, and means a lot. So that stuck with me in every aspect of my life. Like, hard work pays off.
When you were doing that work, did it feel like you were going to be there forever? Like you said, some of those guys there for 20, 30 years. Did it seem like you were?
Yeah. I thought about it, and like, you got to not get in your head, like thinking so far ahead. But like, I would be like, shit, like I really enjoyed the guys I worked with. I enjoyed learning a trade, but like the longevity of that, like, it's just it's a long, like, you can make great money, and it's great money, but it's hard. It's blood money. And I was like, I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. And like, I'm just waiting and waiting, but like, you got to just be in the moment and be present, and like, day by day, like, you can't think too far ahead. And that's when I would start stressing out about my life and like where I'm going. Like, is everything going to work out, or am I going to be doing this? And nothing against that. That wasn't my plan to do for the rest of my life, Where
do you think that hard work came from? Like, you said that people noticed that it seems like you really care about this job, and like you show up and you put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm assuming, I mean, you weren't passionate about construction or paving concrete, but like, where do you think, is that just like an inherent thing you were born with, or where do you think that comes from?
I was always taught, and I guess I could like attribute that to like my father. He was like my boxing trainer growing up. Is like, how you do one thing is how you do anything. So like, if you're sweeping floors for a living, you want to be the best sweeper, like, so I was like, all right, the way I look at it is, this isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life, but this is what I'm doing now. This is now. Like, whether I plan to be a millionaire in the future, as of right now, I'm a cement mason. So I'm going to learn and ask and do the best I can, because if I like slack on this, I'm going to slack in whatever I do, so I feel like that really with anything. So I don't know. I kind of always treated things like that. Like, I would think like, all right, if I slack off here, and it would show, because I slacked off as a kid a lot, like, and I'm sure we'll get into all that, like, it'll reflect in other aspects of your life. If you kind of like half-ass something and you're just like, like, I don't need to put too much effort into this, you'll take that habit. That's a habit. Yep. You're forming a habit, and then you'll take that anywhere else that you go. Whether you believe it or not, it does happen.
I think that's one of the best ways to test somebody's character or find out their true character, is to put them in a really like, what's the right word? Like a very humbling situation, like construction or manual labor, or something that nobody is going to really want to go do, and see how they perform there. And like you said, if you can show up and work hard and give it your best shot, like, that's probably going to show that you have a solid character, and you can take on whatever life throws at you later on.
Yeah, I do. I always say, like, if you have no direction in your life and like you're looking for something, like construction, you can get hired pretty easily with no experience, like even just as a regular laborer. I highly suggest, like, it won't be something fun, but I suggest, if you have no direction, to do that, because you'll learn a lot about you can learn a trade, which is useful in life in general, whether you stick with it or not. And it'll teach you work ethic, and just like, it'll make you grow up, and you'll take that in whatever you decide to do in the future. So if you are like looking for direction and you have nothing, I would take that path to start off and see where it takes you.
What was it like growing up in New York City? I want to hear about that whole experience. You said Staten Island?
Staten Island, yeah. Staten Island is 14 miles long, 11 miles wide. Okay. So it's tiny, and everybody knows everybody, and it's just its own world. I loved Staten Island growing up. Like, I had some of my best friends there. Like, it made me who I am. But it could be toxic at the same time, because it's so small. So like, that's, I do talk about a lot, like, how that was a very big factor playing into like me starting posting on social media and like starting my fitness journey, because of how small it was. So
like, it was intimidating to start.
Yeah, because everybody knows where it's small. Like, everybody does the same thing. You go to the same places, you see the same people, and like, that was cool growing up. Like, it's easy to like feel like a a big fish,
Right.
you know, because like you're around the same people a lot. But like the second you do something different, it stands out.
Right.
So like you gotta, like, if you're worried about judgment and what other people think, then that's gonna definitely play a factor in an area like that.
Dude, I can relate 100% to that. Growing up in
Yeah.
Wyoming, like our town was like 60,000 people. There was 2 high schools, each with like
Oh,
1,000 kids or so. Like everybody knows everybody.
Yep.
And it's the same thing. Like if you start posting on social media, or you start doing something different, everybody notices. People start asking you questions, and
Yeah.
it's scary. Like I don't know if those people even really care. To be honest, it's just like an internal thing.
Internal, yeah. I there were people. I don't know how it is anywhere else, but like people care. Like I got
Really?
Yeah, I got criticized a lot. Like starting
What
off.
people say?
Dude, it was just like, I was like, what the hell? What do you, so I started, I was doing CrossFit, and I was like in the party scene and everything before that. And which everybody does. Like I said, they go to the same bars, like, and if you do anything different, it's like, it's looked down upon. So I was like, I started like getting really into CrossFit, and like, I started cutting back from like going out, and like, I was just like getting sick of spending money and just feeling like crap. So I was like, all right, I'm going to focus more on eating right. And maybe instead of I won't go out on Friday and go to the gym early. It's like, I started feeling good, and then just slowly just started posting like my CrossFit workout, whatever I did. And at first no one said anything, but then I started doing it more and more, showing transformations or whatever. And people would like message me and be like, well, yo, why are you posting so much fitness? Yeah, I'll never forget. I'm thinking of one instance. I had like an argument. This kid like actually slid into my DMs and was like, why are you posting so much fitness stuff? And I was like, dude, unfollow me. Like, you're looking, like, you're taking the time. He's like, well, it pops up. I was like, you're looking at my stories. Like, you have to click on someone's name to look at their stories.
Yeah.
You're looking at my, like, you can unfollow me. And I'm like, I'm not commenting to you when you're posting bottle service at the clubs. Like, but, you know, like, why are you commenting to me? So people, or if I was like out, if I saw someone out, they'd be like, oh, they started calling me like influencer or like Goggins wannabe. And I'm like, no, I'm just like, but like, whatever. I cared at first, and it did affect me from like posting initially. Like, I would go to post something and like think about it, like I would exit out. I'm not going to do it. It was tough. Like at first, really, like, I was very hesitant. I like pulled back a lot. So like,
what do you think made you keep persisting forward and like?
So I saw like my initial growth on TikTok, and I posted, it was something along the lines of like how I changed my lifestyle from, it was like a video of me out at the bar and like then me in the gym, something along those lines, and like how I changed my mindset or whatever. And I remember getting like one video took traction, and getting people that like crossed over to Instagram, found me, would message me and say like, yo, I have the same issue. Like, how do I stop caring about what people think? Or like, you really motivated me to start, just things like that. Like how I helped them in some way get over their situation. And I was like, one message with a positive, like, positive message was better than 1,000 negative ones. And I was like, it made me feel really good, because my passion is to help people. And I was like, oh, if I can make an impact on this person who I don't even know, I was like, I could keep doing that. And like, that was my motivation, was helping people, getting that positive feedback that I'm in some way, shape or form helping someone. And over the course of my social media presence, I've gotten, I can't even count how many messages, and it's not like a pat on the back for myself, but like that keeps me going. Yeah. I've had someone, I'll never forget, one guy messaged me. It was in my message request, and I look, and it was like, dude, you saved my life. And I'm like, what? Like, and I answered, I'm like, what are you talking about? He was like, I was on my way to the liquor store to relapse, and I saw one of your videos, and I made a U-turn. And he was like, I just want to thank you. And that's like, something like that is like, okay, I don't give a shit what anybody has to say about me negatively. Like, that's more impactful than anything. So
when you first started posting content, did you ever have that idea in mind, or like was that a goal to try and help people? Like what made you initially start?
It was more just organic. Like, I just kind of, I always loved fitness, and I just started sharing it, and just like sharing your journey. Yeah, and I never really had like idea in mind of, I didn't know how any of that worked. I didn't know algorithms and like, trend. I had no idea. And like I said, one video took traction, and then from there I was like, oh, okay, like I could actually reach people, and it took traction from there.
That's cool, man. When did you start going hard into the content?
COVID.
So
Yeah.
like 2020, like right after.
Yeah. You know what? It was probably like good timing, because people needed that at that time. And I think it just was like good timing. I know a lot of people came up in the space at that point. And I guess they just needed that positive message, because a lot of people were just locked down, like, and inside. So it helped out and took traction from there. So it was definitely like a light in the very dark time.
Did you used to be big into like partying and drinking and all that? I've heard you talk about it a lot on your Instagram and stuff. Was that just like middle school, high school, college, like just big into the party scene?
So before, like once I turned 21, it was like I was like out in the party scene, like it was just big, like that's what everybody does where I was from. And I thought that was like, so before that, coming from that, growing up as a kid, I was like just an unconfident, like I wasn't overweight and obese, but I was fat and lazy. I had just every excuse in the world, no work ethic. I quit everything I started, and that was how I was growing up. And then I guess I started working out and like learning nutrition slightly. So I started getting in better shape, and I gained, I guess, confidence, quote unquote. And instead of using that confidence to like pursue goals and like better myself, it was like, oh, I'm in better shape now. Let me go out to the bars now and like use it there. You know what I mean? Like now, so I took the confidence in the wrong way, and I went out and I was like, I'm going to be the man. I'm going to get bottle service and this. And I was surrounded by people that looked at that as like a good thing, because everybody did it. And I was like kind of living my life in a way to please others. Like I was looking constantly for the approval of others. And that it was like a couple of years I was in that scene, and like it just never felt right. And I knew I wasn't living for me. I was living for everybody else. And I was like looking around, and I'm like, where is this going to get me? You got to think long term. And I'm like, it was fun. You had your good times, but like, it's time to turn the page and start a new chapter. And like, I just one day just was like, no, like started turning down plans, saying no. And, I lost, people you thought were your friends, like stop hearing from them. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, they were never really friends anyway. And like, it gets lonely at first, when you're on that journey to like better yourself and be a better person. But then like the people that I've met along the way are just, I would never trade it, like I wouldn't be sitting here having a conversation with you. Like I wouldn't have worked with companies that I've worked with had I stayed on that path. I'd be around the same people doing the same thing. And I'm forever grateful for that. Like I never saw any of it coming, but like now I surround myself with like-minded people who think the same, who are constantly striving for something, some type of goal, some type of way to better themselves. They're looking long-term where they want to be. They're not just looking to the next weekend and what bar, where's everybody going this weekend. You know what I mean? Right.
Dude, it's like the saying of you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
And
like,
it's true.
When you're growing up in a small town, everybody's doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. Like it's so easy to just fall into the trap to do what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
But to get out of that and kind of forge your own path and go down that, it's a really difficult thing to do, but it's like, anything worth doing is going to be difficult, or anything that's going to lead to success is going to be very challenging and very difficult. Was there a specific moment, like you said, one day you just kind of decided to stop doing all this same shit and do your own thing? Was there something you think that like sparked that specifically? Like, was there a book or a podcast or like a YouTube video or something that you saw that
it wasn't
something?
Like I get this question a lot, and what was the moment? And I don't remember the moment. I just remember a series of moments of just like waking up and I look at my bank account and I'm like, what did I spend? Like, you're spending money on what? Like and it's like, for what? To show for what? And then I feel like garbage. Now I have a whole, this is when I started getting more into, like I started with CrossFit, and I started to feel it, like, cause like CrossFit's all performance. It's very athletic. And I'd try to go to the gym like the night after I went out, and like I just felt like garbage, and I'm like, this is horrible. Like, so it was a series of moments where, and then I would look at people around me, and I'd see people older than me and like in their 30s, and I'm like, do I really want to be there like doing this when I'm 30? And I'm like, I could change this now. Like, what you're doing in 5 years from now starts with the next decision that you make.
Right.
And that could make two completely separate paths. So I was like, if I keep making the decisions that I'm going to wind up, I mean, I won't really be that far down that path because you don't really move. You just stay pretty stagnant. And I was like, then I'm going to be very behind in my life. I don't know what like my overall goal is of like what I want to end up, but it's not going to get me there by doing what I'm doing. So I had to really like dial in on just focusing on myself and just enjoying being with me and learning about who I was as a person, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah, totally.
Because you got to spend time alone. You got to spend time, which people don't want to do. They distract themselves with, you know, being around other people and alcohol and drugs and things like that. And it's them a lot of times trying to just escape what they don't want to face in themselves, you know?
Yeah, that's why I love running so much, is because
Yes.
it's the perfect time to just be by yourself and have that solitude. And I love running with people and going to group runs and stuff like that, and that's fun. But I think I honestly just prefer going out for a run by myself, you know, go and log, 90 minutes, 2 hours, just out, no headphones, no phone, nothing, just just thinking. And because you have to be so present and like hyper focused on what you're doing in that moment. And nowadays, especially like TikTok and Instagram and all this shit, like it's just so hard to find complete solitude like that.
Yeah. Like that's literally why I enjoy it so much. And I had a problem with that at first when I started running. I couldn't run without headphones or a phone. It was ridiculous. Like, cause I hated it. I didn't want to sit there. I didn't want to be with my thoughts and like those negative thoughts, I'm sure you know how it is. Like those negative thoughts come in later in a long run or something. And it's like, it's giving you every way out. And I didn't want to face that. So I'd have to be motivated with music or a podcast or something like that. And then I paid for it on my first marathon because I remember I was completely unprepared for it. I didn't train as nearly as hard or long as I should have. And I cramped up in mile 20 and I had 6 miles of rolling hills and headwinds with a leg that I couldn't bend and excruciating pain. And the music, this is I had music in because at that time I wasn't running without music. For some reason, the playlist that I had was just playing the same 4 songs the entire time. So for that I had to take them out because the entire marathon, I realized that they were just repeating the same songs at the beginning. And I didn't want to stop and I had it on my arm and take it out and mess with it. So I just listened to the same 4 songs. Now this happens with my leg cramping up and I'm like, I can't, like it was driving me nuts. So I took it out. So for 6 miles in the back country roads of Texas, I'm like limping to get to the finish line. And when I tell you I was probably in the darkest place in my life, like I went in the depths of my mind and every negative, like I faced every negative and insecurity like that I could possibly imagine. And I was forced to be present and talk myself out of it. And then after that, I was like, that's it. No more music. And I forced myself. And it was weird the first couple of times running without it. And now I'm like, I can't even picture. It's been like about year and a half now, never running with music. And like, I don't think I could ever go back to it.
Dude, that's wild.
It's crazy.
That's crazy. I was at the same race as you.
Yes.
I mean, I remember seeing you and I was like, now thinking about it, I'm like, there's no way. I would have never guessed that's what was going through your mind in that moment.
Yeah.
Dude, that's the greatest part about running.
Yeah.
Is there's no other way, at least in my experience, to get to that point where like it doesn't have to just be running, but some physical endeavor, like whether it's CrossFit or an ultramarathon or an Ironman, whatever, like to put yourself physically into a state where you're just so uncomfortable that your mind starts asking so many questions. And like a lot of times it's those why questions of like, why am I out here doing this? And a lot of times it even goes further of like, just like, what's my purpose in life? Like it gets weird sometimes. When you are doing these long races, because you've done how many marathons now?
Two. I was in prep for a third. I've done 2 halves. Yeah. So.
When things get tough in that moment during a race or just in life in general, do you have like a thing you tell yourself when you start asking yourself those why questions? Do you have an answer for those?
Why am I doing this?
Yeah, why am I doing this? Or like, why should I keep moving forward? It doesn't even have to be during a race or something, but
it kind of goes back to like what I was saying at the beginning. It's like, if you quit now, you're creating a habit. Right. You're going to create a habit to quit. If you quit in training, you're going to quit in life. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Because like marathons for me and running, it's not about the marathon. Like don't get me wrong. It's fun seeing that hard work pay off, crossing the finish line, but it's a moment. It ends like this. And believe it or not, the worst parts for me, like the most unenjoyable parts about marathon training is the week before and the week after. You want to know why? Because there's no running. It's less running the week before, and you really don't run usually like the week after. I enjoy that whole process of running during the journey to get there because I'm learning about myself and I'm learning my why, and I'm learning, like, I'm constantly pushing myself and seeing how far I could go. And that's what I remind myself. I'm like, why? Why am I doing this? Because it's not about the medal. It's not about a finishing time. It's about proving to yourself that you're stronger than you think, especially coming from being an inconfident little lazy kid. I had those, like, that's a hard habit to break. Like, it's that negative self-talk. And I had that my entire life. And now I'm like just dead set on never, ever talking to myself that way, the way that I used to again. So that's like my big why, is reminding myself like how much talent I've wasted, how much time I've wasted on like counting myself out before I even towed the line. So now it's like, we're going to show what we could do if you believe in yourself.
Yeah, man. I think you kind of talked about the prep for a marathon and the training. That's where all the growth is. Like the race is easy. Like, you've got people running around you. You've got the crowds. You've got, the incentive of like, you get a medal and you get to finish the race and you can take a photo afterwards, all this stuff. But it's 100% the training where all the growth happens, because you're waking up at 5, 6 a.m., going outside by yourself in the cold most of the time. Like you don't want to. It's 5, 6 days a week. And that's just where all the growth happens. That's where all the progress is made.
Yeah.
What got you into running initially? So you started with CrossFit. Was that like your first dip into fitness?
Well, I played sports my whole life. I played basketball, football. I boxed since I was young, and my dad had me in the ring since I was a young kid. I did jiu-jitsu. So I was always athletic. I just never like I said, I had confidence issues. So I had talent in every sport that I played. I just wouldn't take it to that next level because I counted myself out before I even tried. I just had no confidence in myself. So then, yes, I was always lifting too. I started lifting when I was 13. And then CrossFit, I tried a class and I fell in love with it. It was very fun, very challenging. And yeah, that was like my sport for 3 years. I coached it.
Nice.
And then I just wanted something different. COVID came around, so gyms closed. I did have a bunch of equipment in my garage, but like, I was like, you know what? Like, let me try something different. Like, and I just went out on a run. Did it completely wrong, which most people do. I was just running as long and hard as I possibly could. And I was stopping, panting for air. And I was like, this sucks. Like, why can't I was like, how do you get faster? Like, I was running like a 7:20 pace. Like, and so I
think everybody starts that way. I definitely did.
Yeah, I
you don't know any better.
Yeah, exactly. I had no idea about that, and I was like, this is never gonna get but I was kind of hooked on it. I was like determined to get better at it, and then I started like looking into it more, following people who run, and then you learn about like the heart rate training. So I was like, all right, and like now I'm running. I started like just doing slow runs. It was like 12-minute pace, but like you start to see yourself get better. And then I became addicted to that process of like getting better at it because it was something new to me. For me, it was always like short sprints, and every sport I played was stop, go. So like boxing, basketball, football, it's all just short intervals. So speed work was never an issue for me. I could run intervals very easily. It was that long endurance that was really like tough for me, staying like nice, easy pace, low heart rate. And it just kind of took traction from there. Like I just fell in love with it. I like I said though, fell in love with it with music. I had to train myself not to, but like I did enjoy running. I ran my first half marathon, and then races, they become like addicting, you know, like just seeing yourself get better and always striving for a better, like a PR, because you feel like you improved yourself. So that's how it started.
Nice. It's a really tangible way to see your progress and your growth too, because like running is it could be good and bad, but it's so like data driven, and it's so based around numbers, which is cool though, because again, it's like, okay, I ran a 3:30, next time I'll go and run a 3:20, and then you go run a 3:20, like, oh, I got better, I improved. It's just a really cool, like tangible way to see your growth. What races do you have coming up? Or like what are some like big goals you have for running, if you have any?
My overall goal is I really want to hit that sub-3 marathon. I don't have any races in the like next few months. This is going to be like a building season for me. I just want to kind of run like on my terms, but like enjoy it without like a regimented schedule, because the past 2 years have just been regimented running schedules, like 5-6 days a week, and like there was no time for any other fitness. Like I do want to do some different fitness in the summer months, or obviously no one's running marathons really in the summer because like the heat.
Right.
So I just ran a half a couple weeks ago. I had an 18-minute PR.
Jeez.
Yeah,
that's huge.
That's
over a minute a mile.
It was nice. It was a nice feeling that you see the work pay off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna keep building fitness, some speed work. In the fall, I'd like to do another marathon, and I'm trying to work towards that sub-3, and I'll get there. And then after that, I would definitely like to, and you might have been one of the people I've heard say this, but like definitely like to get into at least one ultra marathon, strictly because I feel like you meet a part of your brain that you've never met, and I want to meet that part of me. Like you get into like that really dark place, right? I mean, I don't know.
You 100%.
You would know.
Dude, I mean, like you're talking earlier about like those last 6 miles of your first marathon, how you go to like some really deep, dark places of your mind. And I would say, because I've done 3 marathons now, and I've done 2 50-mile ultras.
Okay.
Haven't ventured into the hundreds yet, but I would say from a marathon to a 50-mile ultra marathon is like, it's double the distance, but it's like 8 times as difficult.
Yeah.
And like for me, when I got to like mile 30, 35, those last 15 miles or so it was the longest 15 miles of my life. Like, I don't know how many hours it took, like 6-7 hours basically. Oh my God. I was walking because I was so wrecked from it. Like, it was in the mountains in Wyoming and just absolutely wrecked me. But like you said, those are the moments where you learn the most about yourself. Yeah. Yeah, dude, I would recommend ultra marathons for sure.
I will be in that space at some point, strictly for that mental benefit.
Running becomes a drug, 100%.
I know.
It's like, it's a very slippery slope. Like you start with a half marathon or a 5K or a 10K.
I actually started with a mile time, which that was like my first test, I guess. I just went for like I said sub-6. I got 5:36, and I was like, yeah. And then after that, I was like, all right, half marathon, and then like you just keep going more and more, like to see what you could do. It's crazy. So it's only natural that I go into the ultra space now.
Yeah, I think ultra is like a whole nother sport too. It's I don't know, because again, road running is so much more about the pace and the times and stuff, and then ultra running is more about the experience and finishing it, and it's such a way more of a mental game. Mm-hmm. Where with marathons, like you could look at some objective data from somebody, like their lactate threshold or like what paces they hit during a certain workout, and you can be like, okay, they're going to be able to run this time for a marathon, or a half marathon. But with ultra running, there's just so many other factors at play, like. I mean, you go like look at like Leadville 100 or something. Yeah. There's just, you're in the mountains, like literally anything can happen.
Yeah, terrain, the elevation. Yeah, it's crazy.
Do you have any specific ultras?
I don't know. I don't know a single thing about the ultra space. Like I'm not there yet, but like I've learned my lesson about trying to like train myself through things that I'm not experienced with, and I will go to someone when that time comes, like who's experienced, because like the best thing you can do is learn from someone who's been there and done that. So it's like I will hire a coach or speak to someone. I will not. I'll do it the right way because I really want the full experience. I don't want it to be like a sufferfest in the sense that I'm like completely unprepared and have no clue what I'm doing. So when that time comes, I will fish around, see what the best option is. But yeah, I don't know anything right now.
Do you have a coach right now for your running or your lifting?
Actually, I just started working with Will. Yeah. So he's gonna help me out because I believe that my nutrition is. I feel like because I'm not when I'm in marathon prep, I kind of just intuitively eat, and I know I'm eating a lot. But like now that I'm not gonna be in marathon prep, I'm kind of just gonna be running like 30 miles a week. I want to make sure I'm eating, enough and not under eating, and I feel like I'm under eating, and and I don't know where my calories should be at, so he's gonna help me out with that. And
nice.
Yeah,
that'll help a lot, I think. And two, having a coach, it's like even if you have a lot of knowledge about a certain subject, like it's nice to have somebody there to keep you accountable.
Yeah, exactly.
And bounce ideas off of and stuff. Like even for me, I always hire a running coach for a race or a build. I saw you wrote, there was an article I think I saw about you, and you said lifting is my fire, running is my ice.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
So lifting is like I go in the gym and I have my headphones, noise canceling headphones, put on like a dope playlist, whatever I'm feeling that day. It could be like heavy metal or it could be like hip hop. And like, that's just where I let it all, like if I'm like stressed or angry, like you could let it out there. Cause like you're just pulling weight. Like it's the way to release like that, whatever tension you're feeling. Running is more of like my peace. Like there's nothing more peaceful. Like that's where I want to forget about whatever I'm stressed about or angry about. Like I just go out and I kind of just, it's a one place that I'm alone with my thoughts and I'm very just present. And I like to go on like scenic runs and I like to explore. So I'll take different routes that I never been. I get lost a lot.
You still live in Staten Island? I meant to ask that.
No,
earlier.
I'm in Jersey now.
Jersey, okay.
Yeah.
How far from like New York City are you?
It's 25 minutes.
Okay.
Everyone from New York moved to where I am, so
Nice.
It's like it's the New York of Jersey.
Okay, nice.
But yeah, I just that's like my solitude is just being very peaceful. So that's the difference. Running, and they both balance each other out. Yeah. There's a place for both of them.
It's like the yin and the yang.
Yes,
basically.
exactly.
That's funny you say that because I feel like every episode I've done so far, we talk about this of like running it's good for your mind, and then lifting it's good for your body, like it feels good.
Yeah.
Running arguably is not great for your body.
Yeah, even like hormonally, like it's good. If lifting is better for your body, like it definitely helps with that too.
Yeah, there's just so much truth in that, and it's just funny because I feel like every episode I've done so far we've talked about that balance of the two. How do you go about balancing running and lifting?
Very smarter now than I did in the past. Like in the past, I was like, I was one of those people that were like, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Like, as you get more into it, you realize like these things take a toll on your body, and it's like, all right, well, I gotta prioritize like, sleep. Sleep's most important, and you can't. If you're sacrificing sleep to be able to get those two in, then you're gonna have a problem down the road. And I did that, and I wound up with an injury that sidelined me for 2.5 months. So
was that the stress fracture?
Stress fracture, yeah. I was sacrificing sleep. I was very much like running my body down, and so it's definitely a fine line. Like if I'm deep in marathon prep, I'm pulling back on lifting. I'll do it like 3 days a week. I'll try and do like a push-pull legs, but I'm also not gonna be going like as intense as I would if I'm not like deep into a prep, because you got to remember like you want to recover to be able to hit those paces for your speed workout or your long run. When it's like when I'm doing what I'm doing now, like moderate running, moderate lifting, I like to plan ahead. So I have like a whiteboard that it's of the week, and I'll just say like I'll think like, all right, well, I'm gonna run on this day and it's gonna be this long, and I'll fit in my lifting there. I like to always run first, then lift. I usually do legs at the beginning of the week so that they're fresh, because if I hit a speed workout midweek or a longer workout on the weekend, that soreness is usually gone. So like Monday is legs no matter what. Usually with a very like a low easy run, or like no running at all. I'll be off that day. And then the rest, I don't have any rhyme or rhythm of like how I program my week. It's kind of what, depending on how long the run is and how much time I have in the day. If I could squeeze in, like if I have enough time to hit like chest and tries, I'll do it then. If not, maybe that day I'll do shoulders. So it's always like, I'm very like dynamic, just changing constantly.
Nice.
But I do make sure that like if I feel run down, because I'm very in tune with how I feel now.
Right.
If I feel run down, if I know like I didn't sleep so well, or I know I have a big workout coming up or whatever, I'm not like, you got to get it done. Like there's a difference between like you making excuses and being lazy, or you getting injured. And I know the difference. I've spotted out when I caught myself like, I'm tired. Like, and I'm like, no, you're going. But then there's times where I feel run down. You have like that brain fog. I feel like very sluggish, and I'm like, my body can use the recovery. So like if I catch myself and I'm like, all right, I'll take off from lifting today. I already ran, or, you got to just be smart about it. You got to leave like that ego at the door.
That balance of the, like, you talked about, or you mentioned not pushing so hard that you're going to cause an injury, but it's like there's a fine line between the two. And I think having that intuition, you only get that from experience and more time spent training. And I actually started noticing it at the end of my last marathon prep, was like you become so in tune with your body when you I think it's just the consistency more than anything. It's not even the fact that you're running every day. It's just like the consistently running every day, eating the same foods every day, lifting every day, that like when something is a little bit off, you notice it when you're just doing the same exact things every single day. So I think there's a lot of power in just that consistency of all that. And I think obviously a marathon prep can be a tool to develop that consistency, because you're sticking to a rigid plan.
That definitely, after putting your body through like the ringer, you definitely learn like what works, what doesn't. You're testing things out and you're seeing like, oh, I did that day, like I had a horrible workout, like I'm not doing that. Like you definitely learn. Right. And like I remember my first marathon, I completely cut out lifting legs, thinking that would help me.
Dude, I did the same thing.
Horrible, bro. Horrible. The course ate me and spit me out, like literally killed me. And I was like, well, not doing that anymore. So I started hitting legs, like especially like in the start, I built up, like was lifting pretty heavily. And then like as you get like closer, pull back on the weight, like you're not going to be trying to go for one rep maxes, but like you're still going to keep them strong. And also I started doing all single leg movements now, because if you think about it, running is single leg movement.
Yep.
If like, you could back squat and everything, like leg press, 2 legs, but like you're hiding imbalances. I started doing like a lot of single leg running functional type lifts, and it exposed so many imbalances. And like, I feel so strong now when I run like on my legs, like compared to doing regular every workout with 2 legs. You know what I mean?
Dude, when I realized that running, it's such a simple thing, but when I realized that running is a single leg activity,
I know.
Like you're literally never on both legs at the same time. You're constantly just on one. And so when I started incorporating more of the single leg stuff, it made a massive difference. What kind of single leg exercises do you do?
So I'll do Bulgarian split squats, single leg RDLs. It could be either dumbbells or barbell, whatever I'm feeling that day. Let me think. Oh, I started doing like hip flexor, like putting like a kettlebell on my foot and like doing a single leg, like those, which hip flexors never did them before. Like, but you don't
feel those the next day.
Single, like I'll stand on a plate and do like reverse lunges with a barbell, just anything. Like even I'll go on like a leg press, and instead of doing 2, I'll do, obviously got to pull the weight down a little bit, but like a single leg press, and you feel that single leg, what are they called? Hip thrusts. Yep. Like it's good. And another thing too, calves. And I learned that again through stress fracture. Like weak calves, weak feet, they like that's a cause of most injuries. And like I also didn't realize that there's 2 parts of the calf. So there's a reason there's a seated calf and there's a standing calf. They're 2 different parts, and like you need to work them because they're pretty much absorbing a lot of the impact of your running. So it's so much. It's all like a learning experience that like I learned through mistakes I made, and that's why I always say there's a gem in every failure. You just got to find it.
Right.
Like there, you learn. It's either you win or you learn. If you're not learning from your mistakes, then you're losing out on the whole point of the journey, is to learn from what you're going through. That's why, back to what we said, marathon's fun and everything, but like that journey getting there is where everything comes into, like, where you learn everything about yourself and you grow as a person, not just crossing the finish line.
Do people ever give you shit for being like a bigger dude that tries to run? I get so much shit of like, dude, you gotta stop lifting. Like if you didn't carry so much weight, you could run way faster. And I'm like, I look at people's profiles that say that, and usually, one, they're typically running slower than me, and they're way smaller than me. Yeah. I think it's just like some insecurities there. But do you ever get?
I don't get like, not so much. I feel like it's becoming more like respected that like you could put in work like on a endurance event and still carry muscle. I do get a lot of looks and I see it when I go to like a public track. And there's like runners there, like who like, and they're obviously smoking me, like, cause that's their sport. It's always been, but they see me, like, I come on, I take my, like, I don't run with a shirt, like, and like, I'm not saying I'm jacked, but I obviously have muscle.
You're not small.
I'm not like, I don't look like a regular runner, right. Like, cause obviously they aim to be like thinner to run faster. And I could just see like the looks, and it's like, you don't belong. And especially if I have like my boy who records for me or like shoots my content. He's on a one wheel next to me, and it's just like I could see the looks. They're like, what is this kid doing? Like big meathead trying to run. Like, but like, I remember I went to a track in Manhattan recently, and like they were all looking at me when I got there, and like I could tell they were like, you don't belong here. And then I was ripping like 640 pace for like 1,000-meter repeats. And I was just like, all right. Like, and I think they saw, cause like I was running, they were doing repeats too or whatever. And I'm like hanging in there around them. Like, I don't know exactly what they were doing, but like, I'm not like some just poser meathead. Like you know what I mean? Like I'm actually putting in the work and trying to get better at the sport. And I have no like hate towards runners at all. Like I think the running community is the most welcoming community that I've been in the fitness space, and I've done bodybuilding shows, CrossFit. So like no hate at all. It's just like, I could tell that some of them initially maybe like look at me and they're like, you don't belong here. Those traps are too big.
I think it's becoming more more accepted.
Yeah.
That bigger people can run too.
Yeah.
And like, dude, I mean, what's that guy's name? The British dude. I think he's British. Fergus Crawley.
Oh my God. He's a beast.
Animal.
He's
Deadlifts
a beast.
like over 500 pounds.
Yeah.
And just rips Ironmans and all these crazy races.
Like, yeah. He like doubled the 4x48 thing. Yeah.
It's cool though, because it's like, those are like the peak athletes, I feel like. It kind of started with CrossFit, where it's like you can run and lift and do all this. Yeah. But to turn that into like long distance endurance too. So
I always said like the CrossFit athlete is like probably and I'm talking about like the elite athletes. They're like the ultimate hybrid athlete, because a hybrid athlete is someone who's like they're like a chameleon. They could take a shape in every aspect. Like, and that like look at Matt Frazier. He just, in anything you gave him, swimming, running. The thing though with CrossFit is, and I noticed this in like gyms that I've been to, like anything more than like a 400 meter, 800 meter run, it's like they're done. And that is why I like kind of wanted to get a little better at it. Like, cause I was like, all right, I could do short sprints and like short runs, but like how long can I go for? And like, it's definitely a skill to be able to learn like that longer endurance run.
Yeah, I feel like the like long distance endurance athlete that is also can go and lift heavy weight.
Yeah.
I don't know, because like for somebody training for a marathon, like you still have to incorporate like 600 meter repeats, 800 meter repeats. You still have to have that like quick turnover in your legs, but also have the endurance and be able to go lift heavy shit. Like, I don't know. I think that's kind of where the future is at.
That's like to me, it's just so appealing, and you're like well rounded. You're like you could go hang in there in a lift like a bro sesh, or you could go to the track and hang in there with all like people who've been running their whole life. Like that's their sport, and like to me that's awesome. And like running is always been associated with like you got to be small to run. Like why can't you build some muscle and still go rip a marathon, a sub-3 marathon? And more people are showing that it's possible.
Would you ever consider dropping weight to like say you just got stuck at like 305, 310 or something for whatever reason, would you ever consider shedding some muscle or some weight to get faster?
At that point, I'd have to accept the fact that's me.
Yeah.
It's something else has to, because there's people that are like more muscular than me that are doing it, and I'm like, I would have to understand, like, come to that realization. All right, there's something wrong. Like if I naturally get, which I do deep in a prep, I usually naturally lose a few pounds, like just happens. But like, I'm not gonna really like dial back so much, and I do naturally pull back a little bit on my weight training, as I stated, but like, I'm not gonna stop completely. Like, I can't.
Yeah.
Lifting was my first love. I joined my first gym when I was 13 years old, and I've never stopped lifting since then. Like, that's my first love. It's got to be there for me, you know? So I'd have to look at my circumstances and see, all right, what needs to change? Something's going wrong, you know?
Yeah. I think, I don't know, I ask myself that question a lot of like, would I want to lose weight and try and get faster? Like, you know, run like a 2:30 marathon or something. But I mean, I think, do you know Patrick Cutter at all?
Yes.
Dude, that guy.
Oh my God.
Just ran like 235
He's
in
a
Boston.
beast.
I don't know his exact height and weight, but he's a tank.
Yeah, he's
Just
a muscular
ripping.
dude. Yeah.
I think people like that, people like yourself, that are just like setting the standard, setting the bar for like, you can keep running faster, you can keep building muscle, you can stay a big dude or woman and like just go and rip these fast races. It's really cool. It's inspiring.
It's nice to see it like in when you show up to a race and like you see other people that like maybe normally wouldn't be there, and they're like, it's like, all right, it's getting out there and like running impressive times or impressive paces. Like it's really cool. It's nice to see.
Do you have like a 5-year, 10-year, like 50-year goal even that you want to try and achieve? Not just with fitness or running, but like just life in general. Do you have like an ultimate vision that you want to try and achieve?
Not so much like a life really like crazy goal that I'm a very simple person. I'm not trying to be rich, and you know, I have a very simple, I want a home gym like in my house, and like maybe a nice backyard, like maybe some animals. Like, I don't want anything crazy, so I don't have any like big huge goal aspirations. As far as like a fitness goal or aspiration, I try not to look so far ahead, because I just feel like that like psychs people out and causes them to never even try. But I do like to have them there. I would like to do like an Ironman maybe at some point, but like now that's going to be like a whole new world, because I've never biked like that, and I've never swam like that, like actually swam. So that's like a long term. I don't know when I will, but that's definitely like a long term fitness goal for me.
Dang. So just a modest house with a home gym.
Yeah.
What kind of animals are you thinking? Like
I want to raise I want my own food. I want to raise my. Yeah.
Like self-sustaining.
Yeah.
That's dope. You want to do that in New York? Do you think you go stay in New York?
You go
forever?
upstate.
Upstate?
Yeah.
Have it would be like a big piece of land basically.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm like I said, I'm simple. I'm not trying to be like I don't need a mansion or anything. Financially stable, some properties, you know, we'll see.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's respectable for sure.
Yeah.
Well, dude, this was a ton of fun, man. I really enjoyed this. I'm glad I got to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, man.
I feel like we could just sit here and chat for hours, honestly.
I know, man. It really could, dude.
It was fun though, dude. Where can people find you and all the stuff you're doing?
I'm on Instagram, Dranky Fades. It's my initials just switched. It was my first Instagram handle, and it stuck. People started calling me, so I never changed it. And I actually have my own podcast now. It's the Non-Negotiable Podcast, available on all platforms, so you can check that out too.
Epic.
And if anyone ever reaches out, I answer as many messages as I can, as long as they're genuine. So if you ever want to reach out and link up or talk, whatever, hit me up.
I love it, man. Dude, you're crushing it. This is a ton of fun. I'm excited to see all the cool stuff you've got coming up, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me, bro.
Yes,
I appreciate
it.
Thank you so much for tuning into the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you in the next one.